So I've been talking about a lot about Marvel lately, and a lot of the Marvel trailers that have been coming out, and movies that are coming up. So I thought I might as well do one about Spider-Man: Far From Home. When I first saw this trailer, I didn't really see it coming because I wasn't thinking about it because Spider-Man got decimated, and um, well, when I saw this trailer, I wasn't too surprised with the whole decimation thing, but other people I know who were who I was talking to about it, they were like, "Dude, what the heck? How can they have this Spider-Man movie trailer with all these characters who got decimated? Like, aren't they dead?" And like I was like, "Well, obviously they're coming back, and that's why they're doing it." And also points more toward the theory that I have about the decimation that Thanos, when he snapped, he just divided the universe into two parts, and half of each population went into either one, and that's a very popular theory. So besides that point, the trailer itself, um, I honestly think it looks like a pretty good trailer. It's not what I wanted to see, not at all, but that's I'll talk about that in a minute. So a couple of things in the trailer that stood out to me. One, that Aunt May knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man now. I thought that was going to be like a secret the whole time, but I guess at the end of the first Spider-Man Homecoming movie, Spider-Man was standing there like, whoa, like in his room, like with the Spider-Man suit on. Aunt May just came up the stairs. She's like, what the fuck? And then, like the movie ended there. And I thought that like they were just gonna like forget that happened, and that was gonna be like, oh, just a gag moment. But I guess that leads into she now knows that he's Spider-Man, and that kind of stood out to me because I was like, that's not how it goes in the other Spider-Man movies. And so the title of the movie is called Spider-Man: Far From Home. Far From Home. So we know that Peter isn't gonna be in New York the entire time, obviously, because that wouldn't make any sense. I thought that it was going to be Spider-Man in space, and I thought, oh, cool, we're going to do a Spider-Man in space movie. That's really far from home. You know, we've never seen that in any of the Spider-Man movies before. But no, he's still on Earth, and I'm kind of bummed out about that. But again, save that part for later. That one girl that I didn't even remember from the first movie is apparently MJ, and her and Peter have this thing going on, and that wasn't, I don't think that was relevant in any of the first movie. Like they weren't like a thing, but like because he had a thing with like that other girl whose dad he had to fight, who was the Vulture, and like they've totally just thrown her out the window, and now it's this girl, which I thought was kind of strange. I really didn't think they'd ever have like a romance thing for this actor and this Spider-Man in the MCU, which is cool, I guess, but I just didn't see it coming. So rolling through that, then we get that moment where Peter and his friend are walking into that room, and his friend gets tranquilized or knocked out or whatever by Nick Fury, and I was like, what? Nick Fury? Like this was a really weird scene to me because it's Nick Fury and Spider-Man, and whenever I think of this Spider-Man, I think of it as like this weird new Spider-Man because we've already had two like lines of Spider-Man movies, so it's always kind of weird to me like whenever like Spider-Man does something in these Spider-Man movies, I think, all right, this is the first time this new Spider-Man has done this sort of thing. But anyway, so you got just Nick Fury and Spider-Man in this room, and I'm like, we've never seen this before. They've never been in the same room before. I was like, this is kind of weird. And he's like, he's got a mission for him. And again, Nick Fury is one of the people that we saw get snapped away by the decimation. So, you know, so he's like, Peter, I've got a mission for you. And then all these flashes, all this stuff, and you see these elemental monster things coming out. I know they got specific names and specific backstories, but I've heard multiple different stories, so I'm just going to call them elementals and just leave it at that until I actually see the movie. Because I don't think they play much of a big role after this movie. Like, they're just here to be the villain of this movie. And then we see, obviously Mysterio pop up. As soon as I see the guy come out and he starts fighting the elemental, I'm like, oh, that's Mysterio. But I don't know, like, a ton about Mysterio. I know him from, like, the Spider-Man games that I've played, but that's pretty much it. And I was pretty sure, like, he didn't have any powers, and I did some research, and I was like, oh, he's right, he doesn't have any powers. He's just kind of like a trickster, like, he just uses gadgets and stuff. So everything that I see him do there is probably just part of, like, his suit that he's already made and that he's doing right there, which is pretty cool. I think he looks like a pretty cool character coming into the MCU like that. I don't know what kind of role he's going to play, because I thought he was a bad guy, but they kind of make him look out to be a good guy. But I did some research, and what's probably going to happen is that Mysterio is actually behind it all, and he's controlling the elementals, and Nick Fury needs like help from Spider-Man with the elementals, and then Mysterio comes in and then he pretends to be a good guy and fight the elementals, but then later it's like all an illusion, and he was actually holding up the elementals as a ruse so that he can get something or whatever. I don't really know what he wants or what his whole backstory is, but yeah. I was kind of surprised to see him, but like once I saw him, I was like, okay, it's Mysterio. I was thinking to myself, are they gonna pull back a villain that they've done from the other Spider-Man movies? Are they going complete fresh? And that's what they've been doing. I mean, they haven't had Vulture yet, and now we got Mysterio. This is totally new from the other Spider-Man movies. And I think that's really cool, but I also think that this MCU could do another villain could do a villain that's already been done and make it even better, and the movie would still be great. That's just my opinion there. I wasn't really like geeking out like, oh, I hope they put Mysterio in the next Spider-Man movie, because I really didn't care that much about him. So obviously Tony Stark, Iron Man, is not seen in any of the trailers, and I don't think he's going to be in the movie, and I don't think anyone else thinks he's going to be in the movie either. Either because he's in the other universe, or he dies in Endgame. And if he does die in Endgame, this is making those people really think that he's definitely dying in Endgame, and the actor's not coming back into the MCU, which is kind of sad and kind of bums me out, because you see Pepper Potts' name on that big check that Happy brings in. You got Happy and Pepper Potts' name. You got the characters surrounding Iron Man, but not Iron Man, which is kind of depressing to me that he's not going to be there. So besides that, I mean, the trailer looks good for what it is. Like, I can see why people would really be excited for this trailer in this movie. Spider-Man gets a couple suits. You got some cool big antagonists. You got Mysterio coming in, a whole fresh, good-looking start. It looks really good, in my opinion, for what it is. The thing is, it's really not what I was hoping for. When I heard Spider-Man Far From Home, I got super excited because I thought it was something completely different than this. So now for what I thought it was going to be. I thought Spider-Man Far From Home meant like really far from home, as in he's going to be out in space somewhere on a spaceship or something, whatever, doing space stuff. And from that, I thought that it was going to be like, okay, so in Endgame, Spider-Man gets revived, but he gets revived on Titan. So he gets revived from where he was, and obviously, or maybe not so obviously, I don't know, maybe not. The nobody else is gonna be on Titan when they get revived. So maybe like they get revived on Titan, and like Spider-Man would end up like hanging out with like the Guardians of the Galaxy that got decimated with him. So he'd be like, oh, hey guys, and it's like, oh, Stark's not here. He just brought you back on another place. And they're like, oh, what's going on? And so anyway, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, he gets revived on Titan, and then him and the Guardians of the Galaxy have to get on a ship and go do whatever, and then from there it leads into kind of like a space adventure with just Spider-Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy doing whatever. And from that I thought, oh, this is where they introduce Venom, because Venom comes from space. And then this is going to be like the whole part where Venom comes into the MCU, and I really want Venom to come into the MCU. I was really excited when I thought Spider-Man Far From Home. My head started thinking. I was like, oh, the Spider-Man's gonna hang out with Guardian Galaxy, and maybe they're gonna introduce like other space villains. Like maybe that's how he's gonna contract Venom. Is Venom's gonna get on a suit somewhere in space, and then he's gonna end up bringing it back to Earth at the end of the movie, and that's gonna blah 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 like that. So that's what I really thought was gonna happen, and I was really excited for that when I heard the title of the movie. But that's not what's happening, and I'm a little bummed out about it. But besides that, the trailer looks pretty good for what it is. It's just totally not what I thought it was going to be. And maybe it's better that maybe Venom coming into the MCU wouldn't have been a good idea. It would have led to more questions and just a lot more things that they don't have time to put in it. But that's just my take on it. So, yeah, thanks for listening.